There we go.
There we go.
All right. I see myself. All right. Well, welcome to the June the 7th, 2022 Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting in the Novak room at the town offices. Got a couple of apologies. We have Nico is unable to join us. Jackie, unfortunately, is also not able to join us in person nor virtually. Adam had a prior commitment, so he's not available either. On virtual, on Zoom, we have Nina and Bev, and Kristen Osterwood. She has family commitments, and she will be sort of unable to join us for a couple of meetings because she has a very busy family life at the moment. So in person, there's only myself, Chetna Palmer, chair, and Chris as the vice chair, and Kristen Murphy here as well. So welcome, everyone. So obviously we cannot approve the minutes of the last meeting because we're not a quorum from 3rd of May, so we'll leave that for a later date to come back to that. And so we had a couple of action items which were shared on the agenda by Kristen Murphy with these draft surveys for the community survey and the town department survey for the single-use plastic document for Exeter. So, Kristen, did you want to say something on that? And then...
Sure. So obviously there won't be votes on this tonight, but just to summarize where we left off, at the last meeting we refined the single-use plastics policy, and then I brought that to the town's legal counsel for review. One, of the language, but also two, to ensure that we do legally have the authority to, or the town legally has the authority to adopt such a policy. And I was pleased with the response. They did say for town property and town permitted activities, it's completely within our authority. It's a very different scenario should we consider a town-wide policy. So we made the right choice to prioritize that one. I have had some new information about activities in town, and there is a Meals on Wheels program, and in a prior iteration, it had an exception for human services type activities and nonprofit human service, so I would recommend that be added back in.
Okay.
And then following that, once I got the all clear from legal counsel, I started to collect a list of all of the town's permittees, and we went back to 2019 when Parks and Rec took over the tracking the permits. And the reason for that was COVID, changed things, and so we know that not everyone who typically received permits applied for them because of the situation we were in. So I took 3 years of permits, and I have a list of contacts for all of those permittees, which was actually pretty interesting to see, who we issue the majority of permits for. And then I also collected a list of town staff who are likely to be affected by this, so Parks and Rec, Public Works, just so we have department heads aware of the policy, thinking about how their department might use or not use single-use plastics. And so I think in order for the select board to have an informed decision in front of them, it would be important for this board to gather a survey from the potential impacted folks. So I shared that with Chetna and Chris, and I got approval to prepare a survey from the town manager. So your agenda has linked to two draft surveys. I'm willing to take some comments on them, but in my opinion, unless there's dramatic concern, I think we should initiate garnering responses to those surveys, both the town staff. But if there are things that are missing from that would help us gather information from these individuals, now would be a great time to do so, so that we don't have to follow up with another survey later. So that's the proposal.
I want to roll back just for a minute, because I do remember early on when this topic first came up, we did talk about Meals on Wheels and senior services and things like that. I have a hunch that they're probably a reasonably large user of single-use plastics, just given how they operate. I'm wondering if there's a way, and I agree we should put an exemption in, but I'd love to find a way to make that sunsetted at some point, put a sunset clause in that, and work vigorously with them to become a good example of how a town that it was, how we can move forward in a really positive way with that. Their method of food delivery and needing to leave behind things is not going to change, but I think we can step with them into maybe a better way to do it. So I'm sure there's budget questions that surround that. There's obviously costs and availabilities and things like that. But I'd love to find us in a position to kind of have an outline of what those pinch points are and how we can work with them to alleviate that. Because I think it'd be a great, if we ever find ourselves in an opportunity to move to a broader town-wide scenario, I'd love to have something like a high-use department in our town who was able to make a transition over time. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be great to find out from them in terms of where their plastic use is. And then, we can sort of resource alternatives and see better ways of doing that, and work with them to reduce single-use plastics for sure. So I think that would be great to know, sort of a baseline as to where is their plastic use.
So is the suggestion to include a sunset date in the ordinance as is, or just revisit it at a certain time?
I'd love to propose it, at least in the draft that we move forward with, to give them an exemption, a sunset date, and obviously that'll be a point of discussion that will flourish from there. So. Yeah,
having a dialogue with them would be great.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
And then, getting back to the surveys, I think they're great. And I think it's time to deploy, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy for them to be shared. So,
great.
I think. Does Bev or Nina have any comments with regards to the survey that was included in the agenda?
No, it sounds good to me.
Thanks, Bev.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Sounds good.
Okay, Nina, thank you. All right. Alewife Festival.
Before we move on to that, I just have a question, an excellent point of order. Kristen might know the answer to this. So we did ask the opinion of our two colleagues that are on Zoom. We don't have a quorum. We're not officially banging a gavel and forwarding anything and moving anything forward. Can we actually, on an agenda item, say to go ahead and do something, or do we need a quorum to move that forward?
So I guess my thought is, at the last meeting, you did vote to move this policy forward to the select board. So how we do that maybe is some sort of staff advisement to,
Great.
and
Okay.
so I feel pretty comfortable taking that initiative
Great.
to gather additional
Perfect.
information, just as I would if you were developing a different policy and then I'd need to do some homework,
Okay,
right? So
perfect. Okay,
I feel comfortable with it.
great.
I have a question. I noticed that one of the town committees, I've forgotten just which one it was that I tuned in on, made a formal statement at the beginning of the meeting that the Zoom members' votes and so forth would be counted. So is it possible that we might do that sort of thing as well?
So it is possible for Zoom attendees to be counted as a portion of the voting body. Unfortunately, that only works when there's a quorum present in person. So if there was a quorum present here in person, and say you were attending virtually, Bev, we would be required to do a roll call vote, and your vote could count. But no
Okay.
votes. Well, this is essentially not a meeting. It's just a conversation, I guess, today. I don't really have
Right.
the terminology for what to call.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so, yeah, we can go ahead with that.
Great.
I'm happy with that. Thanks, Kristen. So the next thing on was to talk about the ALY Festival that happened on May the 14th by the library at the Founders Park. And just wanted to get some feedback. If, Kristen, did you have any from others who attended, and what the sort of general consensus was?
Yeah, and I thought you had sent along some good points that we can get to, but so far I've had really positive responses. Most people want to continue the festival. I think there was an acknowledgement that, or an expectation that it would be smaller to start, and spring activities are always tough because you have sports going and, you name it, activities happening, yard sales and all sorts of other things happening, and May is Get Fit May, and so we knew it would be a challenge, but I personally was pleased with the turnout. I think there's some lessons learned in terms of kind of the add-on activities. So for example, the kayak tour, we had no participants. I think that was the same scenario for the film festival. And so should we all want to continue something like that down the road, I would rather see that be multi-weekend activities or something like that, so that maybe you can draw attention about the ecological cycle over a longer period of time. But I met today with the tree committee. They were very interested in seeing it continue. I meet next week with the Conservation Commission, so I haven't spoken with them yet. And Energy Committee was excited for their interaction. So,
Yeah, I think, and again, due to activities, I could only come to the film festival. I couldn't come in the morning, but I think there's something to be said for, especially for, a festival that's small in size and looking to grow, is like when you divide your crowd, you kind of lose them. So if everything we can do to keep everybody, together in one sort of focused activity at a time is a really good point. That's a really excellent point. And if there are opportunities to pepper that out throughout the month, so the next weekend the only focus is the kayak tour, or the next weekend the only focus is the next
Right.
thing, it might actually, it might enrich it quite a bit. So
the other thing that we talked about earlier today at the tree committee was possibly shortening the window for the festival, and so have it a really concentrated event where you could have a tighter schedule for, speakers and things like that, so people knew in advance that they were coming to commit for, 45 minutes of presentations or something like that. But the way we had set it up was sort of spaced out throughout the morning. And, I think that could help, but, I'm open to whatever we do down the road.
Yep, worth taking a good look at. But yeah,
It's certainly, doing something like that certainly doesn't come without a heavy lift. So obviously, it's not something I'm interested in personally putting on every year. But if committees are interested and you feel like it's a way to get your message out, then I say let's do it. But I think you should share your thoughts too, because I think they're good.
Yeah, so I think overall, but to have all the different committees there and sort of talk to residents, and knowing that Scott Ruffner's team had the music festival the following weekend, my own personal thoughts are that it would be great having Scott having established a music festival and the vendors and everything, that it happens every third Saturday of the month over the summer, that to be involved in that, you would increase the footfall, you would reach a lot more people. The festival would be, ultimately would reach a lot more people. And to tag along to, it would get more people out because there's music, there's vendors, there's lots going on. So you're getting a lot more people coming by. You can have more of a outreach, I guess, which is what ultimately it's about. And so my sort of initial thoughts on following the AY Festival would be, if I fully understand that the fish, the alewife, you see them early in the morning, so if you had it...
We can't reschedule the fish?
No. Can't reschedule the fish, no. But if if we worked with, an established event that people know about and, then I think it's probably more efficient and effective in reaching people. But having a schedule to say, okay, I think the music festival starts at 10 or 11. I can't remember what the time is. It starts but it's like 11 till 4, whatever it is. But then, the fish are seen early in the morning, so you could schedule with fisheries and game department to sort of have, meet by the String Bridge at 9 o'clock or whatever, for an educational chat, conversation about look at the fish and everything else, and then you could do you could do a sort of a panel or another activity, and then people could then go on to the Swayze Park for the music festival, where the committees could be all in one portion of the area, and then you're there for the day or till 4 or whatever, and you're able to engage with a lot more people coming through. There's more of an attraction for people to come down, and again, can have other demonstrations happening or other conversations happening, to do with all the different things that the town committees are doing. I just feel that, people, like I said, people are so busy in May as soon as, the snow's gone and things pick up for the spring, that Scott Ruffner's sort of music festivals are quite sort of established now. People know that they're happening, third Saturday every month. And if we wanted things to be available throughout the summer, again, so tagging on to those festivals, having a table, just so that people know that the town is involved and what they're doing, so you could have those things. Were my sort of thoughts on making it more effective in the outreach portion of that. And also, like the music the environmental film, it was disappointing. We had a couple of people who came, and then again, it would be nice. And I spoke to Scott Ruffner about this, with their First Friday bandstand music that they have at the bandstand on the First Friday. Again, whether there was a way in which we could tap into the things happening in town already to then, put up a small film festival or put up something so that people, are out and about, in town by the bandstand, that they can pop in,
Yeah, I think once you have an audience, it's a lot easier to serve additional things to that audience versus having to create something new and go raise an audience, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
So those were sort of my sort of ideas in terms of how we can make it more effective and grow and get people coming, because I think the more activities and more things that are there, I know with the team art festival, music festival, we've got a ton of vendors there, so people are coming, I think it's a lot more attractive ultimately. And I know Scott said he would be more than willing to work with the town on doing that if we were interested. So that's my sort of feedback on that.
And I don't know, in my opinion, there's no reason both couldn't happen, so we could have a day that's focused more on the fish migration and things of that nature, and then plan to have a regular touch point with the public for boards and committees. I think that's a really great idea. It's just a matter of board capacity and, how we set that up and, but I love the idea of reaching more people to get this message out, and I agree wholeheartedly. It makes sense to do that where there's already a crowd.
Yeah, I mean, you could do like the May day. You could have every single committee involved, and then for the June, July, August dates, you could quite easily sort of ask a certain one committee to be volunteering to sort of have a table,
Sure.
but then have information about all the other committees, to lessen people.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Commitment to to all the other dates. So I mean, I think it's definitely food for thought in terms of how we can make it more
Absolutely.
more impactful, I'd say.
Agreed.
I remember attending a talk pre-COVID by a ranger, I think he was, about the alewives and their migration. And it was down by the, I don't know why I'm not showing up on the screen, but anyway, it was down by the old dam. And it was about 45 minutes long. It was very interesting. So that sort of thing has been done before.
Did you?
I don't know. So this was a presentation just specifically for fish?
Yes, it was about, you went down to learn about the alewives. And I think it was a ranger who gave the talk. I could be wrong about that, but...
It could be. I mean, every year we would have some sort of activity related to fish migration. Typically it was at the fish ladder, so we would have fish ladder tours.
I think it may have been near the fish ladder. It was downtown, and it was down on the riverbank, and the dam was still in place at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a part of the fish ladder tour. And so essentially that's what this was. They brought, instead of having to go down into a fish ladder to fetch the fish, they brought fish from other sites for the talk, for the Alewife Festival. But it basically was the same thing, just not a 45-minute presentation. And so another challenge, scheduling Fish and Game is really hard because it depends on how they do their circuit for fish ladder checks. But yeah, I think it's always a crowd pleaser when they have fish in hand and people see lamprey and you name it. So.
Well, we can carry on looking at, if you get other feedback from the other committees, Kristen, and then we can sort of see how we can sort of make it bigger and work with Scott's festival and see how we can be involved in that. Okay. Any other comments or questions, anyone? No? All right. I totally missed the election of the officers situation.
But we're not able to vote, or you're not able to vote, so.
So what was because this was followed on from last meeting which I didn't attend.
Yes, Nico had raised, and Kristen was part of the discussion, we had a discussion about typically this time of year, the committees just take a look at their structure and either reassign or revote for different things. We'll probably have to do that at our next meeting, but to put it out in space to talk about it and put it before the group to either reassign or renominate different spots. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. And on with regards to the officers, I think one thing just want to sort of, want to visit at some point is how people come onto the committee, become members to join the committee, and how that process works. I know at the moment, the application's online and then goes to the town manager, and then the town manager they have an interview with the town manager, and then they get appointed.
Select board. So the applications go, the town manager collects them, they go into the select board packet, they do interviews. I've seen them publicly sometime, and then they do a non-public session and vote to appoint or not appoint, I think. I might be wrong about the non-public part. But anyway, they're board-appointed positions, so.
Yeah, so on that, I just probably wanted, I guess, an involvement in terms of the chair of the committee to be involved in who applies and have a chat with them prior to them being interviewed, or just find whether there's like skill sets that they may be bringing to the committee that might be important for us in terms of whatever we're trying to achieve in the coming year, and also in for the duration of their term, and just to get a bit more insight into being part of the committee. And I think one of the things that also would be great to see is when the people on the committee already, when their term is coming up to be expired, for a notification to be given to the individual and the chair that 6 months out, saying, okay, your term is coming to an end in 6 months' time, so that we can then do some outreach and say, okay, we've got, if you're interested to join the committee, please apply, come and sit in a couple of times for the meetings just to see whether it feels good, get to know who's on the board already, and just get a feel for the situation and the expectations. I think that connection is being missing at the moment. And I think from our experience so far, our terms, we're not always, we forget how long, when our terms are coming to an end, and to be sort of reminded sort of a day before the actual meeting to say, oh, your term is expiring tomorrow, so we need a decision now whether you're going to carry on or not. Again, it's not fair on the people who've been on the committee to be put on the spot to immediately say, oh, I can't step away right now because then there isn't anyone else to replace me, and all that kind of, it just puts a different stance on the whole situation. I think it could be done a lot smoother.
I'm happy to, so the term expiration date is on the website. I'm happy to be that voice as a reminder. It expires at the end of April every single year. So 6 months prior to April, I can give a list of who, whose terms are coming up, and get some feedback. I would rely on the chair to get some feedback whether they plan to re-up or not re-up, and then we could start that process.
Yeah.
In terms of involvement for, review of applicants beforehand or whatever, I would talk to Nico about that. I know the select board packet does include their application, and so typically I'll go, and for Concom, a lot of times people will attach a resume, so I'll go through that. So I have a sense for who's coming, just so that, moving forward as a committee, I understand what they're likely to probably align with in terms of interests. So, and those are in the packet, so I could let you know.
Yeah.
But I tend to kind of stumble upon them. I'm not necessarily aware that someone's applied to the Conservation Commission or SAC or Energy or whatever.
Yeah, I think it would just be a good practice just to know, to get, just to understand, people's participation, and also, the commitment that's required, right, in terms of attending the meetings, in terms of, if you have subcommittees, to be involved and volunteer for the subcommittees and so on, so that we can sort of move on, and they can, people are interested, they've got enough sort of meetings they can attend and get involved in prior to actually accepting a position or going forward with that.
Yeah. And I do know, it is helpful, and if you want me to do that, I'm fine to do that, or if the chair, you as a chair or whoever continues to be chair down the road, reaching out in advance to board members and have board members tell you in advance whether they can or can't make it, because that could change, if we weren't having a meeting, that would change, staff who are here for IT and all of that. So it just helps in planning, and it makes it a lot smoother. We could put something up so the public's aware that there won't be an SAC meeting, instead of saying, what's going on? There's technical difficulties, So there does have to be it's very helpful when there is that communication, I think.
Okay. So I think a couple of other things. I know I had a couple of people contact me, and I know asking why the Sustainability Committee in their advisory position are not involved in, for example, the example was with regards to the PA waiver for the fertilizers and whatever they use on the fields, and whether they're, in terms of as an advisory board, being involved in helping PA and if others are looking for a waiver for certain use of fertilizers, to look at alternative, more eco-friendly, sustainable products, and just generally being a bit more involved, or being a resource that the committee is used for in terms of working with PA. So I had a few people connect with me saying, what's the situation with regards to what PA, whether they are required a waiver or they've been issued a waiver, and is there a position whereby SAC can be involved in working with PA to come up with alternatives, or to the fertilizers they're using on the fields.
Yeah, so that's defined in our regulations. So for that to happen, if it's in the site plan review regulations, you would propose a revision to those regulations to the planning board. They're the ones who adopt them. It's their regulations, and so it would say, you would propose something that states, upon recommendation of the SAC or something like that, and it would have to be voted on by the planning board. For zoning regulations, that's something obviously that goes to town meeting and the town as a whole votes on. But it would take a regulatory change to do that.
So is there a mechanism whereby, like I said, I'm not fully aware of the waiver that the PA are asking on what they use, and obviously is near the water body and runoff and so on and so forth. So is there, in terms of the planning, is a planning waiver that they get issued? So are they asking for waivers so that they can use whatever they like, or is there examples, either given alternatives that are more eco-friendly?
So if you're talking about the project that just went through, they didn't need a waiver for fertilizer. It turned out that they were meeting our fertilizer restrictions. And so
Right.
those were developed through the Healthy Lawns Clean Water Committee. It involved quite a bit of consultation with UNH and members from the state to refine the regulations to define what's an acceptable application rate and frequency for fertilizer, and what types of fertilizer are appropriate for situations like heavy use turf. And so PEA in that scenario they thought they needed the waiver, but they did not end up needing the waiver. So that kind of was null in terms of that particular project. But the scenario for when that would happen is I believe very strongly that we developed regulations that could, if you followed them, you could produce safe playing fields in live turf, not synthetic, that is strong and resilient and does not pose a risk. There are situations where maybe that's not the case because of site conditions or, there are other nuances. And so when we were developing those regulations, we kind of gave like an alternative option. And so if they can't meet those, they need to present why they can't meet that to the planning board. The planning board needs to evaluate their criteria and decide if they grant it or don't grant it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But planning board meetings are public, so if, as a resident in town, if you have a strong opinion about a project, you could certainly attend the planning board and say, on behalf of the sustainability, or me as Chetna Palmer believe as a resident in town, I'm concerned about this, that, and the other, so planning board, please consider these concerns.
Okay. I'll pass on that information to the people who got in contact. All right, so that then takes me on to our charge as the committee that was is 2 years old now, 3 years old.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Or maybe 3.
Maybe 3.
Remember, yeah.
So I think the charge that was obviously put in place probably needs to be revisited, and in some case maybe rewritten. So I'm putting it out there at the moment in terms of Nina, Bev, and hopefully Jackie, Adam, and Kristen can then catch up on that if we had a subcommittee to look at the charge and come up with an amended version, I guess, taking it forward, would be great. So I guess we can't do that right now.
So was that developed by and adopted by this committee, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we certainly recommend, and good advice from Nico to we've certainly achieved some of the initial things that the formation of this committee was designed to do.
Yep.
And so now it's time to maybe look at that next chapter and what does it look like going forward. So it's a good idea.
So I think what I'll do is, do we need an agreement for a subcommittee to be put together? Do we need to vote on that?
I don't know.
Would not. I don't know. These are unwritten rules, so I don't know how to. I don't know how to work within them.
All right, so maybe what I'll do is I'll action myself to send an email out and ask for 3 people. I think 3 is good. For a subcommittee to look at the charge over the summer and come back with any changes. So that's looked at. And on the back of that, so we are thin on the ground, and I know last year we were again quite thin in terms of our monthly meetings. So I'm still proposing that the July and August meetings don't take place because of people's family commitments and summer commitments, and that instead, if the subcommittee is formed, then they can work outside of these meetings and look at the charge, and then we reconvene in September. Is my proposal to
pending something pressing, perhaps that
yeah, if something emergency happens, and then we can call an emergency meeting. But otherwise, my proposal is that we postpone July and August meetings, and then reconvene in September. And then in the meantime, hopefully get a subcommittee to work on looking at the charge for the committee. How does that sit with Bev and Nina?
It makes sense. Our own environment committee is doing the same thing, so.
Nina?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that makes sense,
Okay,
especially with all the busy schedules.
thank you. All right. So I'll send an email.
I was say, do we have to call a special meeting, an emergency meeting, to get everybody to approve that, or how does that,
I will email everyone and just take the executive decision.
Okay.
If I'm allowed to say we'll postpone July and August and then reconvene in September. And just another sort of food for thought. I don't want to sort of, I just want people to sort of think about this. And again, it's an idea. We've had countless conversations in the past with Jen at DPW with regards to the blue bags for household waste that goes to landfill by purchasing the blue bags, and the situation of obviously the blue bags are a form of tax purchasing. And seeing countless sort of, I guess, on Facebook, the Exeter Forum, a lot of people sort of complaining the quality of the blue bags not being that great, with tearing and falling apart. So I know we had this conversation before with Jen and the thought of how can we lessen single-use plastic bags, right? Because from seeing neighbors and the way people generally deal with their sort of waste that goes to landfill, is they will have a trash bin in their kitchen with a white trash bag that they must, they've purchased that fits their bin, the kitchen bin, and then they will then take that bag and then put it in a blue bag. So you've ended up with two plastic bags, a bag within a plastic bag, and then that blue bag is then picked up by the waste management company. So I think one thing I want to sort of thinking outside the box is, if residents, instead of purchasing the blue bags, which incidentally uses oil, fossil fuels, and again, it's single-use plastic bags that just end up in landfill, to have a sticker system where residents would purchase a book of stickers, similar like they would the blue bags, and their kitchen bin bag or whatever, they can purchase whatever plastic bags they want for their for their landfill waste, and they would have to stick the sticker on that bag to be collected by the waste management company. So you got rid of one single-use plastic bag, the blue bags. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Dina.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I think it's a great idea. Let's do it.
I mean,
we can go in.
Yeah, I mean, so you are, I don't know the cost, the company that makes the blue bags, I don't know how much that costs the town. But obviously by the residents purchasing those blue bags goes towards paying for the waste management company, right?
Well, there is revenue for the town in the blue bags as well. So that's, so let's say that whatever the mechanism is, money still needs to change hands. And in your sticker system, in that respect, would meet that problem. I think one of the challenges, and again, it gets into the weeds, because there's a lot of players in that whole scheme, right? The contractor, Waste Management, has a hand in that as well, and the bag maker has a hand in that as well. At the highest level, I agree, if we can eliminate that, or conversely, is it possible to, because I think there's something to the uniformity of the driver understanding that can be picked up from 500 yards versus having to check and see if there's a sticker on it. But is it possible to work with the vendor over time to change those blue bags to something compostable or biodegradable versus the blue oil-derived plastic bag, is maybe the question. And for the record, I don't know what we're doing wrong in my house. We have a family of 4. We only use the one small blue bag
So do I.
per week, and it's never full, but we're active recyclers and composters, but we must not be doing it right. I guess I need to get those white bags to go on the inside.
I've never heard of that. I've never heard of
I think a lot of people do that.
Really?
Yeah.
You've never heard of what?
taking a regular grocery store trash bag. Is that what you're saying?
No, so
Like a hefty bag and put it inside the blue bag.
yeah.
Because your bathroom bins are a certain size, and your kitchen bin
is
sink's
another
a certain
size.
and then you collect all this.
So they just pick, I see it. People just, they'll have a trash bin in the kitchen, in their bathroom, and whatever. Then you just, they're all the different sizes of the white bags that you buy in the supermarket, and then that gets full. They just pick it up and just put it in the blue bag. They're not going to empty, right? They're not going to empty the bins out.
Yeah.
I guess coming back to your concept, though, first we'd have to make an assumption that there's a certain, what percentage of the people are double or triple bagging, right? There's going to be some number that are, some number that aren't. You and I aren't, so, so there's 2 that aren't. But then you really open it up to complete random whatever. You don't know what you're getting. And one of the things I do like about the blue bags, and although I'd like to see the material change, is an element of control. If you control the stream, then all we really need to do is change the material of the bag, get a different source for the bag, still have people pay for the bag. It's a very fair tax system. If I want to keep my tax down, I just use less bags, right? But I'd love to change the material of the bag to something biodegradable or compostable.
Okay, so
I have a quick question. I don't utilize the blue bag system because I live in a condo and we don't have to do that. So I guess I'm wondering, how do other towns manage waste that's going to a landfill? Don't they? I mean, my experience is that bins, big plastic garbage bins are purchased, and then your garbage goes in there, and whether it's red or whatever, and then that's how the waste management sees the item. I guess I'm just not familiar. I mean, I understand. I'm familiar with it from Exeter, but the whole process of this plastic bag thing. Why does it have to be these big plastic bags? And even if they were to be made biodegradable, we know that putting plastic bags into landfill waste, they're not, even if they're biodegradable, they won't biodegrade.
yeah, they won't.
So I guess it's up to me to get a little bit more background on the plastic bags, but I think it is a good idea to offer or figure out what are some alternatives to this system that's been in place for probably a long time.
I mean, similar to, when we if you wanted to get rid of an appliance, you have to buy a sticker to take it to the transfer station. So if you had I don't know the dimension of the sticker or the color of the sticker, but if you had a sticker that was visible, that people paid similar amount to what they pay for blue bags, and that then the waste management company would just be picking up, a stickered bag.
Yes,
right?
But the question is, so for I'm on board with that scheme. That part I get. but then there's still going to be some vessel that's holding trash. We don't know what it is, and I'm gonna wager, I'll bet you dinner that it's probably going to be just another colored plastic bag that they had to buy somewhere else.
Which people do anyway. They buy the normal standard white heavy duty bags, whatever.
Or we'll see
black
the
bags.
green hefty bags or whatever's out there. But I don't know that they're. I don't know we're going to change their action, right? So that if they're using the blue bag to collect all the little bags around the house, they're just going to, now they're angry because they had to buy a sticker and they got to go buy a bigger vessel to still collect all the little. I don't think we're going to change their habit per se. I think if we came up with if we can come up with like a leaf bag style paper vessel or something that would be better to in turn into a landfill and still have them pay for it, makes sense to me. But I'm worried that. Yes, I like the idea of buy the sticker, you tag it, and
But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think we have to sort of look at the people's habits, right? So we have a blue bin, big bin for recycle, right? And then most of us have another big bin, black or grey or whatever it is, for landfill waste, and some people utilize those black grey bins, and put their blue bags in that to be wheeled out for collection day. But like Nina said, we could say, okay, one black grey bin is what it will be collected each week.
And I know a lot of towns do that.
Right.
For sure.
That's
right.
it.
That's it.
But then. So you get rid of that
then you can
blue
just
bag.
Yep, exactly.
Blue
Agreed.
bags, but then that.
But that's an overhaul of the whole system, which is possible. Sure.
So when Jennifer came to speak in the past, I mean, it strikes me that it obviously, is it Exeter's contract with Waste Management that requires the colored bags?
No.
So Waste Management picks up, say, from Nina's condo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A commercial bin, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, Nina, is there, I would imagine there's a large steel dumpster at some point somewhere in your...
So it's a different, it's a different company.
Yeah, one
It's
for
not-
recycling and
Waste
then one
Management
for,
also has trucks that pick those up also, but it's just, I'm sure it's a different mechanism, yeah.
Yeah, we have two separate organizations. One Waste Management picks up the waste, and then the other picks up the recycling. Yeah.
I think that when Jennifer came, when we had this big talk, I think when we were all remote, I think when we had the conversation.
That's right, yeah.
And we were going to revisit it, and we haven't, and it's something that's been sort of been playing on my mind as to how can we change the system.
Yeah, I think it comes down to we have to get everybody's needs and objectives on the board at the same time, right? Because I'm certain, even from the budget committee, I think there's a certain amount of revenue that benefits the town. So great. So if there's still listing all those objectives, and one of those objectives has to be, how do we reduce the amount of plastic bags that go in there? So that make that part of the objective stream, because it would be a valuable but substantive change to how the town operates with trash collection. So yeah, it's a big topic, but it's a great topic.
Yes, and also it's I think it also, the thing about, you don't want to encourage fly tipping and all that kind of stuff, for people to not be part of the system.
Fly tipping?
Fly tipping. When people just leave their, say, trash bag in the middle of somewhere.
That's a phrase I've not heard before. I like it.
So if you for people who, I don't know, who don't want to pay, will just leave it.
Absolutely.
On the side of a road somewhere.
Yeah, indeed.
So anyway, I just wanted to sort of.
No, it's good to get it out there.
Bring that out and just sort of.
And also to learn. I mean, we'd have to visit with the select board and town manager to learn, which of these things are set in stone, and how long does it, even if everybody was in agreement for a change of idea, how long would that take to implement? When do contracts expire? How does one go about changing a scheme like that? Because it's a pretty big part of the week in, week out of a town.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think, the more we talk about it and the more we get people to use the composting facility to reduce their waste that, they may not be using the composting facility, but, trying to increase that stream, reduce the plastic stream, reduce the landfill stream, I think it just, I think it's a conversation to be carried on and
I agree.
come up with a
I'm glad you
solution
brought it back up. That makes sense.
that works. So that was my sort of thought. But we can, again, we can have a conversation with Jen and to see how else other towns do it as well in terms of that revenue stream.
And brainstorm outreach and
Yeah.
what would be a good way to connect with the public and entice a change in behavior, even if you were able to enact that sort of change, it's not going to be tomorrow. So
No.
what could be done in the interim that, makes people aware of the problems with that behavior of taking a bag and put it in a bag, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I think, also when we get the subcommittee to review the charge, I think, making sure that every year there's some critical action items to be seen all the way through and, to champion a couple of key agenda topics, key items like that would be great. So,
Yeah.
and I don't know how you craftily write that into the charge, but, that'll be on them to every year to champion a couple of critical things for the town, so.
Okay. That's all I have. Any other business? Bev, Nina?
Well, I don't know how relevant it is to the discussion, but we have been advertising plastic substitutes. We've started to do that with mass emails. And the last one we advertised was a compostable trash bag. If you go to the web, there are several brands of compostable trash bags available. They're made by a number of companies now. So we will continue to encourage our people to collect their trash with this sort of a bag. That way it can be useful to waste management in their, their production of methane. And it's just something I don't even understand the system that you're talking about where the people are, certain a bag is used, well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, we encourage people to go and on the web and find non-plastic or substitute plastic trash
Buy them at the
bags.
grocery too.
Oh, can you? I haven't
Yeah.
seen them yet, but I would be happy to begin to see them there.
The quick question on that, I'm curious, with those compostable plastic bags, the idea is
Well,
great.
I have one in my right now. Mine happens to be green, appropriate, I guess. And so instead of using the old plastic ones, I collect the waste in that.
But they don't compost unless they're in a properly composted system, correct?
Yeah, they're not as efficiently
Waste
composted.
management-
They break down
Waste
some.
Management crushes their organic material to produce methane gas for UNH. So it serves a purpose.
But yeah, there's different grades of compostable bags, and some have, they have to be certain
Certain conditions.
and thickness and so on. And I know,
Well, the silicon ones are not really advisable but there are others. They're plant-based. They're called plant-based, so you know that they're compostable.
so I think there's, again,
It's a big kettle of
It's a
fish.
question of
It's-
educating the public, or in our case, educating our residents.
anyway, so that's something else to discuss.
Yeah.
So I will say that in terms of other business to share, at the last select board meeting, Dave presented a scope of work for the bike pedestrian master plan, and the select board voted to authorize the town manager to issue the contract. So that's good. So there'll be some movement.
And that's for study, correct?
It's for developing a master plan.
Master plan.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
And so if you're interested in the components of that and what that'll entail, there's outreach associated with it, public
Great.
engagement, policy, mapping of sidewalks and lane widths and all sorts of stuff. So,
Wonderful.
So that's coming down the pike, which is exciting.
That's exciting. That's
Yeah,
super exciting.
It is.
I have a question for Kirsten, I guess. Riverwoods is planning a new health center, and they intend it to be, quote, green, unquote, that is energy efficient and clean powered. Does the Planning Commission recognize, or what is their position on new construction? Do they approve? I suppose they still approve construction which does not meet such goals. I don't know. What position does the town take on that?
I'm not sure I quite understand. So
When the town approves a new construction, do they require green standards, or do they just ignore that completely? What is the official position?
So buildings, planning board doesn't really, doesn't review, what home heating equipment is being used. Is it oil or is it a heat pump? They don't review that sort of thing. Those are building, that's the building department, and we follow the International Building Code. And so, currently we do not have incentives. Currently, we do not have.
There is no effort on the part of the town then to require or encourage.
Not at this time. Nope. We do not have incentives in place should a developer opt for, a LEED style building or something along those lines. There are no incentives built into our regulations.
Well, that's a shame.
Is that something that can be brought up?
Yeah, I think there are communities that do have incentives. They offer density bonuses or something along those lines. So it's certainly, again, it would be a regulation change, but it's certainly possible.
Okay. All right. Any other business? Comments? No?
No.
Okay. All right. So we've agreed no July and August meetings. And then I will send an email to the committee on that. And so we'll meet in September.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll get a subcommittee to work on the charge over the summer so that we have something to come back on that. All right. Thank you, everyone. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
was fake, but I still ate it, cause I'm a green. Yeah, cut those business, KTV, back door wide open. Wasting my sniper, get out. All you gon' die, time rolling. Bustin' on my opponent, no half stepping. Crush my arms, totally wood jet broke, no motion. Sleeping on sofas, creeping in highs like roaches. I done went cages, stages of cage. Now free men, baby, can't